Just a few quick things before we get into the pattern. This pattern, we are going to work a full Tunisian stitch on the bias. What that means is we're going to be working at an angle like this. We're going to be working straight up and down, but everything is going to be at an angle up and down like this. I'll show you how we're going to create that. Also, you will need a stitch counter of any kind, these kind, or a pen and paper where you can mark your stitches off. This pattern, because we are working with a Tunisian full stitch, typically we would count a forward pass plus return pass, and that equals 1 row. But with this pattern, every pass is a row. So your forward pass is row 1, return pass row 2, forward pass row 3, return pass row 4. The reason we need to keep track of our row count is because every 6 rows we need to work a decrease. So here I've created a little cheat sheet for you. At row 6 we decrease, again at row 12, 18, 24, 30, and 36. Go ahead and write those down. Okay, so that's all super important to know before we get started. Now let's go ahead and chain 22. We're going to start the scarf first. So chain 22, 1, 2, 3. I will be right back. Okay, 22 chains. Now they don't tell us how wide the scarf needs to be, but I'll go ahead and measure that out for you. Here we go. And that is going to be right at 10 inches, right there. Okay, so if you have 10, give or take by a little bit, 10 inches, you're right on the money. All right, now we want to keep our edges tight and clean, so we're going to work our edge stitches hugging the hook. We want the yarn to hug the hook. Hold onto your stitch so you don't lose that stitch size, and in the second back bump from the loop, you need to be working in the back bumps. So not the side of the stitch, but right into these back bumps here. In the second one from the hook, go ahead and go in holding onto your stitch and pull up a nice loose loop, keeping this one here still pretty tight. Now hold that stitch so that you don't lose the size of it, and go into the next back bump over and pull up another loop. There you go. And hold that one. Next back bump over, pull up a loop, hold that one. Once you let go of these back ones, it's fine. They're no longer, they are now worked, they are locked in, they're not going to lose their shape. The only one that is at risk of losing its shape is the last one you made. So whenever you go to make your next stitch, you are effectively locking the one you're holding on to in place. Now you can let go of it and hold on to your next stitch. So just keep working this all the way to the end. We are looking for 22 loops on our hook. Each loop is a stitch. Okay, I will be right back. Okay, just showing you how I'm going to work the last stitch now. Again, we want to keep the first and last stitch tight so that we can keep our edges straight. So as I go into the last stitch, I pull up a tight stitch. It's not super tight, it's just that I'm not going to pull up on it to loosen it up. Now with Tunisian crochet, you always want to pull through the first stitch just one loop. That is your chain 1. Then you will pull through 2 loops at a time the rest of the way back. So without pulling up on my stitch or making that loose at all, I'm just going to pull through the first stitch there, and you can see I didn't make that loose. Now I will yarn over and pull through 2, pull through 2, 2, 2, and this will not misshapen the edges or make the edges tighter than the rest of the pattern. It's going to be perfectly fine. Pull through 2 all the way to the end. I find Tunisian crochet to be quite a bit addictive, especially if it's a smaller project like these. Very addictive. Okay, pull through your last 2. We are still maintaining our 22 stitch count. So that was row 1 and row 2 that we just worked. So now we're about to start row 3. Again, I want to keep the loop tight. We are working Tunisian full stitch, which means we're not going to work under the bar. We're going to work between the stitches in these spaces right here. Okay? We're not going to have to work into anything, just pretty much under the chain right here. So in order to keep our work on the bias of everything, we're going to be working up, but at an angle. We're going to work into our very first stitch, which we typically do not do with Tunisian crochet, considering it's right here. So keeping my yarn close to my hook, I go into this very first space right here and pull up a loop. Now into the next space over, pull up a loop. That's 3 stitches. We're looking to maintain 22 stitches right now. Next space over, pull up a loop, and the next, and the next. There we go. Just pull up loops all the way to the end, and it's okay. You can hold on to your stitches. You're not going to ruin them, manipulate them, or misshapen them in any way. There we go. As you can see, I am now fully holding on to my stitches. You will get used to it, but at first, if you're not used to knitting or crochet or Tunisian crochet, this will feel strange. It's totally understandable, but you will ultimately get adjusted to it, especially whenever you realize, oh yeah, I'm not actually ruining my stitches, because that was always my whole thing is I can't touch them, I'm going to misshapen them. Nope. You will be just fine, and so will your stitches. Okay, we are coming up to the end here. We will not be working off to the side like we typically do. We're going to work into the last space, and then that's it. This will force this side to be angled this way. Okay, you can see I'm pulling up a small stitch, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through 1. Now I will yarn over and pull through 2. And let's note that we are now working on row 4. With this pattern, all the forward passes will be odd numbers. Your return passes will always be even. Okay, pull through 2 and 2 all the way to the end. The next row we'll go ahead and count, since I haven't really been counting these with you, but I know I have 22. But I should probably go ahead and count. Oops. There we go. Okay, and you can see our side stitches, because we're keeping them small. Look how nice and neat our edge is, and it's not buckling. So keeping our yarn close to the hook again, we go into our very, very first space right here. Sometimes you have to physically open it up to find it. And this will be 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. Now that was row 5 that we just worked. Our first decrease comes at row 6. So we're going to work all of our decreases on the return pass with this pattern. So now that we are about to work row 6, we're going to work our first decrease. All of our decreases will be done on this side. So yarn over and pull through just 1. Now yarn over and pull through 3. This will eliminate 1 stitch. Now yarn over and pull through 2, just like we have been. Now we should only have 21 stitches. So I'm going to work the forward pass with you one more time to confirm that we have 21 stitches. And I will work the return pass with you, and then I will leave you to it, because you have the cheat sheet there, so you know when you need to decrease. So clearly, we're going to be working up to row 36. So just come on back whenever you have completely finished row 36 and you are on this side of row 36. Okay, let's work our next forward pass, which will be row 7. Again, I'm going to keep that close to the hook there. Go into my first space. Now that is 2 stitches there, 1 and 2, 3, 4. I usually feel my next space I need to work into with my fingers. I just hold on to them and then there, and I push my finger away with my hook. See there, I'm pushing my finger away with my hook. I can feel that's my next space. Push my finger away with my hook. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now we have to jump over all of this right here. This was where we slipped 3 stitches. Come over to the last space right here. So just jump over all of that, and that makes 21. I'm going to do a tight chain 1, or a firm chain 1, not tight, but just firm. And then yarn over and pull through 2, and 2. There we go. Now we are working row 8, the return pass, and that's an even number. It does help to remember forward pass is odd numbers, return pass is even numbers, for this pattern anyway. This stitch right here, I really like. It reminds me so much of the alpine stitch that we make with our regular crochet or common crochet. It looks like the alpine stitch in a way. Isn't that neat? Okay, let me work one more forward pass with you. Now this is row 9. Close to the hook there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and there's my last, 21. Keep it close to the hook, pull through just 1 chain, and then pull through 2, 2. Now we are working row 10. The return pass is always an even number. Okay, so now you get it. Actually, what I could do is just work the next 2 rows with you, since we have this row and then our next row is another decrease. So I think that is what I will do. So I'll just hang out with you a little bit longer and we will work one more decrease row together. And I would like to show you that even though we're working the stitches loose, but the edge is firm, it's not buckling, it's creating a nice clean edge. Okay, so let's work row 11 together, and row 11 tells me, the next row is row 12. And that makes sense. My row count is correct because I have to do my decreases on the return pass. Here we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. A small chain 1. Now we're going to work a decrease. We are at row 12. Row 12, we work a decrease. So I'm now going to slip 3 stitches off instead of 2. Right there. Now we should only have 20 stitches left to work in on our next forward pass, which will be row 13. Okay, so now I think you get it. So just continue to work in this fashion until you have completed row 36 and you are on this side of row 36, and we will move on from there. This pattern is actually quite easy. The hardest part for me was trying to figure out the exact right material because trust me, I tried practicing with this with lots of different materials, different weights. Yeah, this is the right one. It measures up just fine. The hat fits on the head good. So there we go. I tried it with a number 5 bulky. I can answer your question now if you have them in the comments. No, a number 5 bulky is too small. I made this entire pattern already in a number 5 bulky. It's too small. Okay, so I have completed all the way to row 36. Here is the end of row 36. Here is my last decrease right here. So now what the pattern wants us to do is to continue to work in this fashion, working on the bias, but without any decreasing or increasing until we reach a measurement of 23.5 inches total. So let's see what our starting measurement is. We are at about 10 inches now. Yeah, we're about at 10 inches now. So work another 13.5 inches with no decreasing, no increasing. I will let you know in the corner of the screen right here how many additional rows I worked up using this hook and this yarn. So I will be right back. You're just going to continue on as we have been, but with no increasing or decreasing. And there we go. Okay, so I will be right back. It's a very, very fun and simple pattern. I really, really enjoyed working on this the first time I made this the wrong size. I'll be back. Okay, so now that we are at 23 inches for the total piece so far, so that's 23 inches total. And even though I already told you how many rows that was an additional, I had it wrote down, 48 rows with no decreases. So counting the first stitch on your hook, we're going to pick up 5 stitches. So this does count as 1. So then we go into our first space as usual. That's 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we're going to skip the next 6 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in the 7th space over, go ahead and start pulling up your loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yarn over and pull through 1, then pull through 2, and 2, 2, and 2. Now chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Come over here and pull through. Now pull through 2, and 2, 2, and 2. Yes, we will have a piece of material back here. You can just simply tack it down, you can sew it down, or you can ignore it because it's not going to show through on the other side. And this is the side that is meant to be worn forward. Okay, now we're just going to work over this space here. So this will count as row 1 that we're about to work. Row 1. Our forward pass. 1, 2, we're looking to maintain our 16 stitch count. By the way, I should have mentioned that when you achieve by the end of your 23.5 rows, you should still have, I meant to say 23.5 inches, you should still have your 16 stitch count. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then come right here, follow this stitch up, and there's a back bump right here. Okay, that makes 6. Working in the back bumps. There we go. Okay. That's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now into our spaces. 13, 14, 15, and 16. Coming back, that's going to be row 2 for me, and we work our return pass. Okay, we're going to maintain our 16 stitch count until the shawl is 29.5 inches long. The reason I'm keeping track of the rows is so that I can let you know how many rows that is from the point of our eyelet here, opening here. So that was row 2 for me. I will let you know right here how many rows that is to achieve a total of 29.5 for the entire piece. Then we're going to work essentially in reverse, making the other side slowly get wider, just as we did before. But first, let's get to 29.5 inches. Okay, that's going to be row 3. So just keep maintaining your 16 stitch count until 29.5 inches. We are still working on the bias. Okay, I will be right back whenever I am at 29.5 inches. Okay, so I have reached 29.5 inches, which is 22 rows beyond the opening here. So now we're going to start working everything in reverse as to how we started, with one exception. The pattern says to work an increase on every 6th row. We can't do that from the very first row though. We need to make these odd numbers. We cannot work an increase on the return pass. It's just not possible. We can only work an increase on the forward pass. So here is your cheat sheet. We're going to work 7 more rows with no increases. Then on row 7, which will be a forward pass, we will work our first increase. Then on row 13, we'll work the next increase. On row 19, row 25, row 31, and row 37, this will get us back up to 22 stitches on the hook. Your last row worked will be row 38. No increase on this row. This is just the last row you're going to work, which is a return pass that closes the scarf. Almost said shawl. Anyways, so let's start back at 1 again. So this is going to be row 1 on our way to row 7. So come on back. Of course, we're working these first 7 rows with, well, these first 6 rows with no increases, just regular as we have been. So come on back whenever you have completed row 6, which will be a return pass row. And we will work row 7 together, which will be our first increase row. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so I have row 6 completed. Now we're going to work our first increase row, row 7. So we are still going to continue to work on the bias for the rest of the scarf. So we still need to work into this first stitch. So we already have, into this first space, forgive me, we already have our first stitch on the hook. So now we're going to yarn over. Now that is our increase stitch. That one little old yarn over added a stitch. So let's go into the first space here. Now we have 3 stitches on the hook. This row will increase us from 16 stitches to 17. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Now we're working row 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now we're approaching that yarn over right there. That is 16 and 17. Now we're working row 9. We're not going to yarn over this one because we're not going to increase this row, but be sure that you don't skip over your increase, which is right here. You have to kind of manipulate it a little bit to expose that space you need to work into. Because it's a yarn over, it's kind of slanted and fills in the space a little bit. So that's 2. That makes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, row 10. So it goes pretty quick. So when you get to row 14, you're just going to repeat that. You're going to yarn over before you make your first stitch, besides the one that's already on your hook. And then just go into that first space, and there you will have worked your increase, just like that. You just yarn over and go into that first space. So keep working that for all of these rows right here, and here is what you need. Your last row will be 38 with no increase. Okay? I will see you at row 38. Remember, we are looking for 22 stitches on our hook by the time we are at row 38. Okay, I have reached apparently row 39. No, the button was hit on accident. So I reached row 38, and there we go. That's all of that. Now we have to work 1 round of single crochet all around, and that will straighten out the curl for the most part. But in order to do this, of course, this isn't in the pattern. This is just my personal suggestion. Switch to your regular crochet hook, of course, sticking with 8mm. Now, instead of just working straight on across, let's turn like this to where the wrong side of the work is facing us. As we work around and we come back up along these edges here, we're going to pull this open naturally by working those single crochets in this direction, in the direction where the wrong side is facing. It just bends it back. So I'm not going to chain 1, I'm just going to turn and go right back into that stitch. Now the great thing with Tunisian is all these stitches look normal. Now, of course, here's our increases, so they look kind of gnarled. But once we get beyond the increases, everything looks really normal. Okay. I don't know if you guys can hear that helicopter. Here we go. We're just going to work single crochets into every stitch along the side. Did I get... Make sure I'm not just working into one strand. Make sure I get both. There we go. And whenever I get worked my way down here to this first corner, I'll join back up with you and show you how we're going to work the corners. I'll be right back. Well, I can work a few more of these with you. Here we go. Make sure that you get in both of those loops, just like regular single crochet stitches. Okay, I will meet back up with you when we get down to the other end. I'm coming up on my last stitch on the side, so I will work that. Now, my first stitch along the top is going to be right here, and in that stitch I will work 1 single crochet, chain 1, and another single crochet. Now we're going to jump down into the spaces. We did work into the top of the stitch here. Now we're going to jump down into the spaces. When we work into the spaces, we're really going to pull that curl over toward us, and you can see the direction it's going is extreme away from us. So we worked into the top of this stitch, now working into the space next to it. Let's start working our single crochets. And there we go, that's our corner. I think it looks very nice. Now to clarify, the pattern does call for us to work a round of single crochet all the way around. It's just, it was sort of my idea to work it with the wrong side facing. There we go. Now we're going to work into the top of this last stitch over here, and we're going to do just what we did before. Single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. Now working along the side. We're going to have our spaces to work into. Now, if you don't want those big gaps on this particular side, you can just work into the sides of the stitches like that. And that would help eliminate, because I think the gaps on this side are going to be a little bit bigger. So we can work just into, pick a loop, and that way it fills in the gap just a little bit so that there's not such a big gap. You know what I mean by gap is these. And I am weaving in my ends along the way. Now let's look at that curl. It didn't completely cure our curl problem, but it dramatically reduced it. So that's actually not bad. You saw how dramatic that curl was before. It was like that. So yeah, we can probably even help it out by stretching it a little bit, manipulating it a little bit. And there you go. So that's why I wanted to work those stitches backwards. Like what I mean is the wrong side facing, because it just pulls that end up, that curl up. Dramatic improvement, dramatic. And I'm not like forcing it, like, there you go. Not bad. Okay. Oh, Merlin. Okay, guys, I'm going to work this all the way to the other end. Work all the rest of the corners the same way we worked these two corners. And then you can just cut, weave in your ends, and whenever I come back, we will start on the hat. Okay. Okay, now we are going to work the hat. So we're going to start with a chain of 48. One, 2, 3. I will be right back. Okay, so just like we did before, starting in the second chain from the hook, go ahead and start collecting your stitches on your hook, a total of 48 of them, and we're going to work the Tunisian full stitch on the bias for 32 rows. Just confirm that? Yes, for 32 rows without any decreasing or increasing. Just row after row as is. Right now we are working row number 1. Okay, I will be right back. Okay, now we are about to start row 2. So this is no different than we've been working on the scarf. Just gonna chain 1 and then pull through 2 and pull through 2 all the way to the end. So work in this fashion exactly as we did on the scarf, where you're going to go into the very first space, and then on the end here you're going to work into the very last space right there, over and over for a total of 32 rows, and that's going to give us pretty much the height of our hat. Everything we work after that will be closing off the top of the hat. Then we're going to do a little bit of sewing, and then that's going to be it. You can go ahead and make some pom-poms if you want. Again, I'm not going to. I'm going to add some modern faux fur poms. There we go. So whenever I tell you how much yarn is needed for the hat, I'm going to account for the pom-poms, okay? So I'll see you when we get to row 32. We've got 30 more rows to work. I'll be back. So I have reached the end of row 32. Now the pattern wants us to decrease every 8 stitches every other row. So every forward row, forward pass row, we're going to decrease every 8 stitches along the way until we reach the end of row 37. So for about every other row for 5 rows. So that doesn't mean 5 rows we're going to decrease, just over the next 5 rows, every other row we're going to decrease within those 5 rows. Okay, so let's yarn over. This counts as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's row 33, 7. Here is the 8th stitch. We're just going to skip over the space and come over into the next one. And there we go. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8. So we jump over it. We just completely skip it, come into the next one, and that starts us back at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Skip this one, jump over to the next, and that counts as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do we skip the last one? Are we supposed to? Probably. So I'm going to skip the last one then. And here we go, return pass. Let's see, try that again. And now we are on row 34. So just do that again on row 35 and then again on row 37. Just skip every 8 stitches, skip a stitch. Okay, I'll be right back. So here I am now at the start of the 36th row. I know I said 37 before. That was a mistake. That's why I put that on the screen. That was my mistake. The pattern says at the 37th row, decrease every 5th stitch. So now I'm at row 37. So let's decrease every 5th stitch. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5. So we skip over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip. Next space over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip. Next space over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip. Next space over. 1 and 2. Now that was 37. Now we're going to work 38, our return pass, just as usual. So I'll be right back. I'm going to work the return pass. Okay, now we're going to start the 39th row, and the 39th row we're going to skip every 4th stitch. So we're just going to work 3 stitches and then skip the 4th. So 1, 2, 3, skip, 1, 2, 3, skip, 1, 2, 3, skip, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, skip, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, skip, 1 and 2. Okay, now let's work our return pass as usual. Pull through 1 and then pull through 2 the rest of the way to the end. I'll be right back. Now we are about to start row 41, our forward pass. This one here, we're basically going to skip, it says here every 2nd stitch, so every other stitch. So I'm going to work that first one just to keep the edge straight. Not straight, but neat. Okay, skip the next one. Work, skip, work a stitch, skip, work a stitch. Okay, so you're going to skip and work a stitch every other one. Skip, work. This is our last row. So skip, work, skip, work, skip, skip, and there we go. And we work our return pass as usual. Okay. Now it says to fasten off and sew the seam neatly. This will be on the bias and will come at the back of the head. Okay. That first stitch is just so loosey-goosey. I hate it. Oh well. So I'm going to cut a long strand for sewing. Oh, but I probably want to start at the bottom, don't I? So that I can come up here and cinch that shut. Or should I cinch it shut and then sew? That might be a little complicated. Not complicated, but confusing to the eye. So I think what I'll do is just cut this and weave that in. Now I will go ahead and just cut a pretty sizable length for sewing and weaving. Okay. I don't need that anymore. I wonder if the curl will go away as it's worn, or if we should run a round of single crochet around that bottom edge. Anyways, it doesn't say to. The patterns do not instruct to do so. Actually, let's go inside out with this one. So wrong side out, and we will start here on this edge and join it right here. Well, there we go. I think I might have cut a strand a little too long. I'm going to tie these two together here. Whoop. Oh well, it was too long anyway. Okay, yeah, I think I might have cut a strand just a little too long. So I think I'm going to cut that down by quite a bit. All right. And let's see here. I'm just going to go through both loops across. Let's see here. Well, I kind of need to go through this one, I think. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sew this all the way up, and I will be right back. Okay, my work is still wrong side out, but there is my work. Now I'm going to go ahead and just weave this around so I can cinch the top shut. Guess I'm just going to go right into the spaces between the stitches, into those big gaps there where I started. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and tie these two together. Flip it in right side out and look at that seam. Ooh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a pretty obvious seam, isn't it? Okay, so now it says that we are to sew up the seam, okay? Make a pleat in the front and sew onto pompons. So this is obviously the back. I'm not a fan of this seam at all. Wondering if there wasn't a better way to do that. Okay, so what I did was I put the hat on, and while looking at the picture, I just sort of mushed it down where it needed to be mushed down and tried to make it look as much like the picture as possible. I'm going to have to put it back on so that I can pin it, because taking it off, it loses its shape. So I would recommend that's what you would need to do. Make sure that the seam is obviously in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back on and take a stitch marker and pin it into place. Then I'll take it off, and it said to work, the pleat should be secured by invisible stitches. So I'm going to have to put it back on. I'll be right back. It was too thick for stitch markers, so I just took it off, holding it the way it needs to sit. And with the excess yarn on my hook, I'm just going to, there is the top part right here that I'm going to stick my fingers in here like that. And I'm going to work my first seam. Oh shoot, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to bump that. Tie a little knot just to hold this in place. There's not a whole lot of instruction on how to do this, so I don't know if I'm doing it right the way it was done. I'm just doing what comes to mind mostly. So I'm going to try this on real quick and see how it's looking. Yeah, I feel like I pretty much have it. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in all of my ends and sew on my palms. I got a lot of ends to weave in, so I will be right back. Okay, guys, here it is. Now, originally, I didn't pick this sort of gold color, which I would call university gold. Brand of yarn I chose to use is Lion Brand's Hometown. And this sort of beautiful gold, they call it Madison Mustard. So here it is. I love it. I love the beautiful sheen. I just went ahead and added 3 just to kind of, you know, got a whole bag of these on Amazon for like, I think it was like $7. And they are 2 inches. They're 2-inch puffs. Very cute. But here it is. I really like it, actually. I think it's kind of cute. Like at first I wasn't really sure, but once you doll yourself all up, and I tried to use like my jewelry, I tried to use colors that would match. I kind of put on this sort of bronzy brown, just wanted to kind of, I was feeling sort of an autumn fall aesthetic. As soon as I put it on, I'm like, oh, this is giving me like fall vibes. But this is it, our 1938 Tunisian crochet cap and scarf set. I really, really like it. What do you guys think? Let me know. I had so much fun making this one. I am loving the Tunisian crochet. Somebody over on my Just Karina channel asked in the comments, what size Tunisian hooks should they get for the future projects I'm going to make? Genuinely, all of them. Get all the sizes. You know, like on Amazon, you can get a kit for like $15 or a set, and it's got pretty much all the sizes. You may have to buy 1 or 2 extra to get your size 9, size 7s, size 10s. When I say size, what I mean is 8 millimeter, 9 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 7 millimeter. So you might have to, you know, but of course, you know, these videos are going to be up forever. So if you don't have the hook now, you need to wait a little while before you can get them. This pattern, this video isn't going anywhere, so you can always pick up your hooks whenever you want and work on these at a later time. I love you so much. I will see you in the next video. I told you this year was going to be awesome, didn't I?